Hey, my name is Christine, and I'm an Alps and Dolomites based elopement photographer who's been living and working in the region since 2019. And in this video, I'm going to be walking you through everything that you need to know to be getting married in the Dolomites or really anywhere in Italy if you're a foreigner. I work with a lot of couples that are coming from the US, Canada, Australia, and really all over. And when you're coming to another country to get married abroad, you might have a few questions about the legalities, how it all works, especially when it comes to ceremonies. And so that's what this video is going to be all about. So let's get into it. Before we even really get into the nitty-gritty of things, you might be wondering, can I even get married or elope in the Italian Dolomites or anywhere else in Italy for that matter? And the quick answer is yes, you can, even if you're coming from abroad. There is some nuance to that answer though, and that's where we're going to be diving into during this video. To get started, some things you need to know is that there's a few different types of wedding and elopement ceremonies you can have. The first would be a civil wedding or the legal ceremony, have a religious or church ceremony, as well as then there's symbolic ceremonies. So a few key details about civil marriages, if that's the direction you're leaning, is the good news is most foreigners can legally get married in Italy. And typically civil weddings are required to take place at a designated civil registry. Where you can get married does depend on the municipality, but the good news is there are mountainous civil registry locations, just like the one pictured here, so you definitely can still get married with an awesome view of the Dolomites. You're going to be required to hire a professional translator for your ceremony unless both partners speak Italian. And unfortunately in Italy, civil marriages for LGBTQ couples are not yet possible. Italy only recognizes civil unions. If you are an LGBTQ couple though, and you're looking for somewhere that still has that Dolomite looking rock feel and allows for legal marriages, Austria has some stunning alternatives. And that is possible there, so highly, highly recommend. In terms of what required legal documents you need to get if you want to have a legal ceremony in Italy, a few things to keep in mind. Pretty much across Europe, these are the same documents you need, like with just a little bit of variation. You're gonna need your passports, birth certificate, a marriage certificate or final divorce papers if you've been previously married, a certificate of no impediment, or a certificate of single status, which just shows that you really are single and you also aren't like marrying a family member, a declaration of your intent to marry. This also kind of has to do with like visa stuff, and then a death certificate of your previous spouse if you are widowed. And all these documents will require an official translation into Italian. From personal experience, we've had one couple who chose to legally marry in the Dolomites in like the last quite a few years now. The bride was American, but she also spoke Italian, and the couple opted to work with a professional company to help organize all of the legal details. But even with that extra help, they still said it was a really complicated experience. Our couple actually later shared with us that if they were to do it again, they would symbolically marry in Italy and save the legal aspect for at home because it was such a time-consuming process leading up to the trip. And also during the trip itself, there were a lot of logistics that they had to navigate in terms of getting specific signatures and other things. They said the legal part, it was cool. They would not do it again though if it were up to them. So I'll just leave that there as some words of advice from another couple who's done it. In terms of religious weddings, if you're wanting a religious or church ceremony, there's a few things that you should know about here. One, any couple can have a religious wedding ceremony that's led by a celebrant or a family member, but getting married within a church itself is a bit more complicated of a process. Official religious ceremonies can typically only take place after a legal ceremony, whether that's in Italy or within your home country. And churches might require documentation of your legal ceremony, and also, especially if you're like Catholic, proof of baptism or confirmation certificates. Some churches also require premarital counseling and proof of that before your ceremony. If you are leaning towards wanting a religious wedding ceremony in Italy, I would highly recommend going the symbolic ceremony route. It's a great way to weave in all of those religious and cultural elements that matter to you without the headache of a traditional church wedding. And now for my favorite and the best and the easiest way to get married is to have a symbolic ceremony. So any couple that can legally travel to their chosen destination can have a symbolic ceremony. There's almost no restrictions on where you get married beyond considerations for private property and any sort of environmental closures. And symbolic ceremonies are a stress-free and a private way to get married. Most couples who symbolically marry do the legal paperwork at home in their home country before or after their elopement. And I've had so many couples tell me that exchanging vows in private was what made the marriage feel real, and it was just as meaningful. So don't let a symbolic ceremony put you off as it's not the legal day. I've had so many people tell me the wedding day that they celebrated abroad, that was when it really all came together and felt real. So one of the biggest questions I get as an elopement photographer is, what does a symbolic ceremony even look like? So I want to dive into that, give you some ideas of just a general overview. I'm definitely considering making another video all about symbolic ceremonies themselves, just because I think people have so many questions and it's hard to envision without actually experiencing it. So I'm hoping I could do that in a way that would paint you a broader picture of that. But Some key details of typically what a symbolic ceremony looks like is symbolic ceremonies can be either just you and your partner privately exchanging handwritten vows, or it can be a ceremony that's led by a family member, a friend, or a hired celebrant. A celebrant out here is basically like an officiant in the US. And except for out here, you don't need anyone to officiate your ceremony. People always wonder, do I need to hire a celebrant? How important is that? Here's some stats for you. About 10 to 15% of our couples hire a celebrant or officiant to lead their ceremony. About another 10 to 15% enlist a family member or friend to lead their ceremony. And then the vast majority, the remainder there, they actually typically exchange handwritten vows and exchange rings privately during their elopement, and they don't have anyone else involved. So you can definitely still have a meaningful, connected ceremony without having a lot of logistics or details to worry about there. And what does a symbolic ceremony even look like in the first place? Typically, in my experience, two-person elopement ceremonies are somewhere between like 5 and 15 minutes long. They include exchanging personalized vows, rings. Sometimes we've had couples that have done a ritual together, like a hand fasting ceremony that they practice beforehand, which I always think is really cool. And then the rest of the elopement day is spent exploring and creating awesome new memories, whether through hiking, cool, unique helicopter tours, on the water, like any number of different ways that you can imagine. Just imagine the best day ever and you happen to get married on that day, and that's an elopement day. Celebrant-led ceremonies generally last a bit longer. They're more on the 25 to 40-minute side of things. Generally, that just depends on whether or not there are other guests involved in the ceremony. If you're having a micro wedding, something else really cool that we've seen and that I love is that a lot of our couples who have had a celebrant or family-led ceremony with their guests then opted to privately exchange vows later at a separate location. So there's truly no limits on how you want to celebrate. And if you want to exchange private vows, but you're kind of worried about having an audience there, even if it's a small audience of your family, you definitely can have the best of both worlds, which is another awesome thing about eloping. And just as a kind of fun side story, one of our favorite moments from this past year was a couple, they brought cowbells to ring after exchanging their rings, which was, I'm saying ring way too much, but it was the ultimate way to ring in a new chapter and start in the mountains. I absolutely loved it, and it was so fun. Just great personal touch there. So I hope this video helped give you some ideas about what your wedding abroad can look like regarding the ceremony and also the legalities around it. If you're looking for more one-on-one help, you can always get in touch via the link in the description of this video. Otherwise, we have plenty of free planning resources that you can find on our website, as well as we're trying to upload here to our YouTube. So we're so excited to help you out, and I'm hoping that you have an awesome time as you start dreaming up your own elopement in the Alps or the Dolomites.